Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Before we dive into the episode, I am so excited to share with you that my brand new online course, Cashed Up Creatives, is officially out now. Now, this course is for my artists with neurospicy brains, my bi-weekly paycheck cuties who just don't want a budget, or anyone who wants to get out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle and finally experience financial wellness. This course is for you. It's gonna help you get 3 months ahead on bills. It's gonna help you pay off debt while you still take vacations. It's gonna help you manage your fluctuating or consistent income with ease. You're gonna be able to confidently talk to your parents or partner about your money decisions. You're gonna be able to open a retirement account and invest your first or next $500. You're always gonna have surplus in your bank account, and it's gonna teach you how to ditch your scarcity mindset so you can feel abundant with money. Now, this is a self-study course, meaning that when you make your one-time payment of $247, you have immediate access to the course content for life. And on top of lifetime access, the best part about what I'm sharing with you today is that for the rest of 2025, I am going to be hosting live monthly office hours for anyone who has joined the course. Meaning, if you join before our first monthly office hours call on March 18th, you are going to get 10 bonus coaching calls with me, totally for free, included with the price that you pay for the course itself. I, of course, recommend joining as soon as possible because the earlier you join, the more of those monthly office hours calls that you are going to get to attend. I cannot wait to see you inside and to help you get cashed up. Hello and welcome back to the Not Starving Artist podcast. We are going to talk today about doomsday prepping with your money. Do you need to? With what is currently happening in America and the world, what, if anything, do you need to be doing differently with your money? Let's ground back into the things you do need to prioritize right now. I've talked a lot about this on Instagram, but I wanted to do a full podcast episode where we go deep into all the facets that everyone's worried about, all the stuff that I'm seeing online and hearing in the chit chat of the ether. And I want this episode to feel like, you know, when you're in an airplane. Now, those of you who don't have airplane anxiety, which maybe some of y'all have joined me recently, just kidding. There are no more plane crashes happening now than there were before. It is just being reported on more because of the fear-mongering that they know will get the clicks. Listen, I've done a lot of research about these recent airplane crashes because I have a lot of airplane anxiety, okay? So, what I want this to be like for you is, if you are like me, when you are up in the air and you hear a noise you're not used to hearing, or the air pressure changes, or you hit in a little turbulence, you do a vibe check to the flight attendant, right? You're looking and you're like, are they sitting there chilling? Oh, he's just scrolling on TikTok right now. Okay, cool. Yep. She's still passing out the drinks to first class. Okay, so we're all chill. We're all good, right? And you vibe check the flight attendant, right? Who's well-versed in all of these things, knows a lot about the airplanes, has been on a lot of airplanes, right? And so that can bring a sense of calm. And sometimes they're buckled in because of the turbulence, right? And you're like, okay, so we're buckled in, right? But they're not screaming their heads off and panicking. I know for me, that always gives me a breath, right? Where I'm like, okay, I can breathe too, right? Sometimes I've got Xanax in my system to help me with that. But what I want this episode to be is that kind of vibe check, where I want us to sit here together and talk about what's actually happening and validate the fear and the feelings that might be coming up. But then let's move into practically. Action-wise, is there anything you need to be doing different? Do you actually need to panic and run for the exit? Or do we just need to stay buckled and make sure we're breathing, right? And I'm going to, spoiler alert, it's the second one. But we're going to really get into that because I think there's so much. And again, I'm back on Instagram. I've been sucked into the doom scrolling. Shit is scary sometimes when we scroll. And even just a lot of content on social media specifically and on YouTube, well, YouTube social media, but the like quick form content and the long form content. A lot of the things to get clicks, get engagement, make sales, get your sponsorships, all of that requires that clickbaity stuff, right? Like the screaming, the yelling, the scary, the fear, the headlines. And we know this, but I'm just saying it out loud to be like, okay, yes. And some of that can be true. And also the method in which we receive that information is important. And so let's let this be like, we're deep breathing and we're talking about the reality of what's happening together. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're not on fire, right? We can breathe and make active plans to exit the plane when it lands, but the plane is not on fire, okay? So I hate plane analogies now. Like they don't hit the same with what we've been seeing. Okay, so I want to talk, of course, about your money. So the first two things I want to talk about is like where you're holding your money, banks, the safety of banks right now. There's talk about the FDIC and moving to credit unions and crypto and all of that. Let's talk about that. And then I want to talk about inflation, cost of goods, the tariffs that were just enacted. And of course, I mean, things have been going so rapidly right now. This episode is being recorded on March 4th of 2025. So by the time it gets released, if things have changed, just know this is the date it was recorded. So there might be totally new swaths of things that have happened, but the core of this message of what we're talking about is going to remain true. Okay. And if something wildly different has happened, I'm going to insert a little video clip here, right? That says like, and here's where Brooke didn't know what she was talking about. And the entire country has come into collapse. And here's what we need to focus on now. I'm assuming that inserted clip did not get inserted in here because that's not going to happen. Okay. But on March 4th, we have just gotten word that the tariffs have been enacted, right? The 25%. And that is going to cause cost of goods to rise rapidly, right? Like we got this like a brief scare earlier and then they were rescinded, but like now they're actually happening. So we're going to talk about cost of goods, inflation, right? Things getting more expensive and what to do about that. So we're going to start here. So let's start with banks. Where you keep your money. Is your money safe? Let's go there. So the core things that I'm hearing is, oh no, the FDIC might be obliterated, might be taken away. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Commission. This is the insurance that the federal government gives banks, right, who have this insurance, so that if the bank goes under, your money is still your money. Okay, so what this insurance is $250,000 per account or per bank that you have insurance for. So let's say, right, like let's take the example of Silicon Valley Bank that happened a few years ago. Silicon Valley Bank, basically everyone freaked out, pulled all their money out, and like the bank crashed, right? Because y'all know banks, they don't just keep all of your money in a vault. You just deposit your money, but then they're taking all the money and they're giving out mortgages, they're giving out loans, they're going and making money with your money. So the amount of money that's actually liquid in the bank for them to like give out isn't the total of all the money that's always been deposited from everyone. Okay, so when everyone freaks out and wants all of their money all at one time, it causes a bank to crash. Y'all remember It's a Wonderful Life with George Bailey? That's what we witnessed there. It was like they didn't have all the money. He was like, it's in his house and it's in her house and da-da-da. That's what the banks do, okay? So that's what happens usually when a bank fails. The FDIC swooped in and said, don't worry, everyone still is going to get their money back. So they gave everyone their money back, right? It was insured. So even though the bank lost all the money, the FDIC was backing the bank. So everyone got their money back. You want your bank to be FDIC insured, right? Always and forever. If your bank is not FDIC insured, move to a different bank. This is also why you don't want to keep huge amounts of money sitting in your Venmo account or your Cash App account, or these pass-through entities like PayPal. My business owners, put on the setting in your PayPal and your Stripe to have that money deposited into your business bank account every single day. You want that auto pulled. You want to use these pass-through entities as they were built for, as a money transfer system, not a bank, okay? Because these are not FDIC insured. I have not personally experienced this, but I have heard horror stories of like someone whose PayPal account got flagged and taken down and they had like all of their business revenue in there, right? No, it's a pass-through entity. So off my soapbox about the FDIC insurance. So people are scared that there's talk of the FDIC being taken away. Now, the actual thing that's being talked about is the FDIC being absorbed into the Treasury Department. So most likely, if FDIC goes away, it will be absorbed into another department and might just have a lower threshold of insurance. So maybe it's not $250,000, it might just be $100,000 of insurance. So if you have more liquid cash than that in your bank account, you might just want to like put $100,000 in one bank and open another bank and put $100,000 in that bank, right? So you're completely covered. Now, what I will say too is if for some reason the FDIC goes totally away, I've heard a lot of people be like, okay, well, do I need to move to a credit union? Should I move all my money to a credit union? No, because I mean, if you're already at a credit union, that's fine. With credit unions, they can be good in certain situations. They had better benefits when online banks didn't exist, right? Because online banks don't charge fees and have a higher interest in their savings account. That's what a credit union usually spouts as its perks. They're usually locally owned. They're usually smaller, right? And they're usually a little behind the times on the tech. I've had a lot of clients who have had issues like trying to get an account closed or like an issue taken care of, but some of them can be totally fine. But if you're thinking about moving all of your money from a normal, like regular bank to a credit union because of, oh no, FDIC, or because you think credit unions are safer, I want you to know that the credit union insurance is the NCUA or NUCA, something like that. It's also a federal agency. So the FDIC, federally regulated and owned, same with the credit union insurance. So if something's happening to the FDIC, something's also going to happen to the one for credit unions. So your money's going to be just as volatile over there. Now, I was hearing Erin Lowry talk about this. She wrote the book Broke Millennial, and I think she said it really, really well, where she was like, if the case happens where the FDIC does get taken out, you're actually going to be less safe at a credit union or a smaller locally owned bank because they have less weight, less resources to be able to cover all of their clientele if something happened, right? So in that case, you actually would want to be at a reputable, well-known bank that most likely has more resources to be able to insure its clientele. Now remember, if the FDIC goes away, that doesn't mean all your money is gone. That just means if something happens to your specific bank, then you might not get that money back. So there's like a lot of things that would have to happen for your money to be completely unsafe, okay? So with that being said, like if we get there, right, then maybe you want to move your money out of your like local mom and pop bank to one that's like nationally recognized, okay? That might be the course of action. We're not there yet, but I wanted to clarify that like losing FDIC does not mean, oh no, now all of your money is gone. So now let's talk about cash. Sorry, that was me taking a sip of water. I get really passionate when I talk about banks. So I like talk louder and more emphatically about, this is how I always talk. So cash. I've also heard people say like, how much cash do I need to take out? Like, do I need to pull all of my cash out of my bank account just in case something happens? Like, do I need to liquefy everything? I want you to think about the actual idea of having all of your money in cash on your person, right? Even if you put like some of it in a safety deposit box, right? Does anyone have safety deposit boxes anymore? If you put some under your mattress or you put some at like, your parents' house, like you try and split it up, but you have all of your money in cash. So like, what if you get robbed? What if your apartment floods? Oh my God. A few months ago, my partner and I were laying in bed and we started hearing a dripping and we come out to our apartment and like our walls are leaking. Like the sides of our walls and through our light sockets leaking and through our breaker, like our circuit breaker board. And we were like, what the fuck is happening? So we had to move like all of our closets closets where all of my memorabilia and also important paperwork and Christmas decorations are. We had to run and scramble and bring all of those into our bedroom because we had no idea where this water was coming from. It just turns out that the lady above us, she had done something crazy with her washer and dryer and unplugged it and was too afraid that she was going to get in trouble that she didn't tell anyone about it and just kept her washer going. So I'm on her door and she's like, I don't hear anything. I don't know if my washer's running. And I was like, I think I hear it. Anyway, our super came. It was all fine. He took care of it. I think there's definitely something wrong in our walls now. But moral of this whole story is that shit like that can happen, right? What if we hadn't have woken up? All my sweet Christmas decorations would be gone. Never mind my important documents. All my Christmas decorations. So what happens if something happens in your apartment? It floods and your cash is gone. There's a fire, right? Oh my God, let me just say all these horrible things and just knocking on wood. Let's say that happens, right? Let's say, it's the shit that's happening, climate-wise right now, when we look at the LA fires, when we look at the hurricanes that have been happening down in Florida. The fact that my parents moved to Panama City Beach and they had snow this year. They had a bigger snowfall in Panama City than we had up here in New York City. That's insane, right? So we've got climate shit that's gonna continue to happen. So think about just those things and having all of your life savings in physical form on your body. Are you telling me that you wouldn't be an anxious wreck for the whole time that cash was out of a bank? So let's just start there. But then let's go even further. What would be the point of you having that cash? Okay. The idea is that if you pull all of your cash out of the bank, then if all of the banks collapse, our economy is in the gutter, is what would happen, right? But now you have all of your money. So now you are going to be the richest man about town with all of your cash. But if you think about the society that will now be existing, if all of the banks have failed, if we have gone into a full economic collapse, I don't think you all are wrapping your brain around that, okay? Think about when all of the banks had to get bailed out, and they were bailed out the last time. That's because the absolute shitstorm, apocalyptic doomsday situation that would be happening if these banks all went under and we fully lost trust in the federal currency, that would not be good for the people in charge. That's what we're talking about. We have to remember the people who are in charge, who are wanting to profit off of this authoritarian bullshit that they are enacting, okay? It would not be good for them, for all of the banks to collapse, for the dollar to be worth zero, to be worth nothing, okay? So that is the kind of world, though, that we would have had to collapse into for cash to even mean anything. But in that world, cash can't mean anything because the value of the dollar is nothing, right? Because we're not going to go into oh yeah, I will receive cash for these necessary survival goods that I've stockpiled. No, it's I'll trade you this good for that good, right? Or we're going to be back into tribal communities where we're all sharing resources. Nobody's going to give a fuck about your cash, right? So when we're thinking about, and this is where I did an Instagram live about this, or maybe it was a story series, but I was talking about if you actually go down the trail of fear, go there, let your brain be okay, do I need to pull all my cash out? What would be the worst case scenario where I would want all of my cash on my person for a time such as this? Take yourself to that situation, and then is it actually helpful? Because as terrifying as it is to think about a world in which we have completely lost value of the dollar and all of our banks are collapsed, our economy is we are literally, there's fires in the streets. We are clothless, running around trying to figure out who's got the medicine. That's a really scary picture. But we need to go there to be and is me pulling all of my cash out going to help me in that situation? And the answer is no. So when it comes to cash and having cash on hand, I want you to have cash for the current emergencies that you could foresee needing right now. I think about, and again, this is shout outs to my anxiety. She's she's a really good sidekick when it comes to like preparing and planning. Sometimes she can really run wild, right? Which is why we've got to keep a rein on her. But when I think about like what would Brooke in New York City need cash for in an emergency? Okay. Now the emergency that I can think of, God, why am I saying this shit out loud? The emergency that I could foresee in my brain, me needing like the most amount of cash possible for, is like we get word that there is a nuclear bomb on its way aimed for New York City. And all of a sudden, everyone is going apeshit and trying to get out of the city as soon as possible. So that would be the situation where my partner and I, we grab our go bags. Oh my God, I'm getting anxiety thinking about this. But we grab our go bags and I grab my couple hundreds of dollars of cash that's in my, emergency stash. And I can run out to the street and find anyone who has a car and be like, I have hundreds of dollars. I will give it to you. Can we get in your car? Right? That would be the situation. I sound crazy as I'm saying this out loud, but y'all are with me, right? Like, okay, go to the worst case scenario. That is not at all what I am expecting to happen. But if I'm thinking like worst case scenario, how much cash would I actually need on my person in a worst case scenario situation? Hundreds of dollars, not my entire life savings, right? So we've got that cash on hand. Usually it's like, oh, we need to tip someone in cash. Usually like around Christmas time, we are always forgetting about Christmas tips until like the week before Christmas. And we're like, oh yeah, we need to get cash out. And we're like, oh wait, this person isn't going to be back until after Christmas. Like grab the emergency cash so we can tip them. That's usually what's happening. And it's not actually an emergency, right? Like we could just go to the ATM. But that's usually what the cash is used for. But if we're thinking worst case scenario, you need a couple hundred, not your entire life savings. This is an exercise that I want you to continue to do as your brain starts to freak out about these financial things in the coming months. Like again, recording this on March 4th, we've probably had new developments and things between now and when this episode is getting released. Take yourself through those situations of like, what are you hearing on the internet or what is someone telling you to do? Walk yourself down that situation and see if it's actually going to be helpful or going to be plausible. This is why, like when we think about crypto, I hear a lot of people talking about crypto. Here's the thing. Crypto is not like proven or stable at this point. Okay. And just the mere fact of like who is promoting it and talking about it, like, again, I don't want you to put your trust in crypto and put all of your money in crypto because that's the safest thing. Because if we go to a world where only crypto has value and nothing else has value, we've gone into an insane society where most human beings in the country won't have crypto. And so we've still gone into that crazy, apocalyptic situation in the country where like you even having a fuck ton in crypto isn't really going to do much, right? And that's even on like the off chance that crypto would actually be beneficial. We're still going to be in that apocalyptic society, okay? So with all of this, okay, take yourself to the worst case scenario and then see what's actually helpful. Now, let's move into cost of goods, inflation, being able to pay for things, etc. This is where, obviously the tariffs just got announced today. And with that, cost of goods are going to go up. We are not a stranger to inflation. We're not a stranger to a higher cost of living. Like, especially if you live in New York and LA, like we've been dealing with a housing crisis. We've been dealing with extremely high cost of goods. Like that's something that we're not foreign with. Okay. But it's going to keep increasing. Like it's not leveling out. It's not plateauing. Like they were saying it might, right? Or they were hoping, they were platforming that it would. That's not going to happen. And so with this, like there's nothing new that you need to do here with your money besides continuing to prioritize the things that are already good to do with your money, specifically with spending. Okay, so we're going to talk about spending for a minute. Because with things getting more expensive, with tariffs being enacted, right? With eggs skyrocketing to the gods, right? It is more important than ever that you are choosing to spend money on things that feel really good to you and you are not spending money on things that don't. And what I want to say is that this barometer might shift as goods get more expensive. What I mean by that is, let's say you have always enjoyed getting your nails done. Like, let's just say getting like a straight manicure, okay? I haven't gotten a manicure in ages, but I remember when I would get a manicure in high school, it was $15, because you could get a mani-pedi for $35. That's what I remember. You could get a mani-pedi for $35. Let's just go there, because that's the price I remember. You get a mani-pedi at my sweet little shopping center for $35. Now, that felt really luxurious and fun. Like $35, that was in my high school realm of finances. That fit. That was fun to do for like prom or whatever. So I do that for $35. Now, I should have looked up what a mani-pedi costs here in New York City. Okay, I just chat GPT'd the prices from 2008 to now so I could give you some actual numbers, okay? So like, let's say in 2008, your basic mani-pedi was $25 to $40. So I was about there, right? Like $35 is your mani-pedi. Right now, a mani-pedi basic is $40 to $75, okay? So let's go on the high end of those ranges. $40 felt good, but now it's $75, okay? $40 to $75 is a huge difference in price. So in 2008, you might have had the thought, oh my God, this is so fun. This is such like a thing that I do once a month. It makes me feel really luxurious and it fits within my current financial ecosystem. Yes, yes, yes. But now that it's $75, you're like, but wait, that might not feel good to me anymore to pay $75 for the value that I'm getting. Now, this isn't me saying you can't get mani-pedis. This is me saying you are allowed to reevaluate the value of something versus what it's actually giving you for the cost. I've shared this before on the podcast, but like, for me, going out to eat, like going out for a dinner, I love a happy hour moment. I love like, let's go get an appetizer moment. I'm actually like, I don't love sitting down for a full meal out somewhere because here in the city, like it's usually really loud. I get really overstimulated really easily and I like to really take my time and like, I would rather do that like at my house with a close friend, with my man, with my family. Like I love an at-home dinner. But for me, I would like still go out to eat sometimes. It was like, oh yeah, it was fun. Like who cares, whatever. But now that going out to eat has gotten so much more expensive, it doesn't feel like I'm getting good value for the money that I'm putting out there, right? Now, for me going out to get coffee at my local coffee shop, right? Like I used to be able to get the coffee that I would usually get for like $2 to $3, and now it costs about $7. Now that's a big change in the amount of dollars that I'm spending. But for me, the value of being able to go to my local coffee shop and like sit and do work and be in that environment and get out of my house as someone who works from home, that value still checks out for me. Like it would probably have to go up way, way higher for that to no longer feel valuable to me. So what I want you to do with the rising cost of goods is put everything you normally spend money on back on the table, okay? Put eating out, put like your DoorDash, put getting drinks out, put your shopping, put the things that like, and I even want you to put the stuff that's so ingrained in your day-to-day that you spend money on, put that on the table. That doesn't mean that you have to cut it out. This doesn't mean you're trying to figure out ways to cut back. That is not what this is. Y'all have been here long enough to know that is not what we're doing here. We are not trying to cut out anything that's non-essential, right? We don't want to go into like Great Depression era thinking. We don't want to go to like, oh, what's the one food that we could survive on? Like you could eat only potatoes for a whole week and get all the nutrients you need. Like, okay, if eating only potatoes for a whole week makes you feel really good and you're excited about that, that's great. But we don't need to be going into that kind of scarcity energy. What we're doing is just making sure the money that's going out is aligning with the value you're getting in return. And when the cost of goods skyrocket like this, your values might change. So put everything on the table. The kind of food you eat, how and where you're getting your groceries, the kind of outings that you do. Like, get honest with yourself about shopping. I know for me, I've had a lot of like urges to buy different kinds of clothes. Like I'm wanting a closet revamp. I need to get a new pair of shoes. Like these heels are if I zoomed in and took a picture of the fucking heels I'm wearing to every wedding, to every audition, they are ratty. And listen, I am trying to find a new pair of shoes. I got some shoe issues. Do y'all know, wow, I'm sharing a lot on this podcast today. Sorry, drinking some water again. Do y'all know I used to be a barefooter? Yeah, like in high school and college for like 8 straight years. 7 straight years. Like I just like didn't wear shoes. I have a lot of foot issues, and like I went to a podiatrist and they were like, yeah, the healthiest thing for your feet is to like not wear shoes. And I was like, fucking bet. So yeah, I just like didn't wear shoes for a long time. So I just like don't care about shoes actually. It's on the docket of things that I need to get, right? But I've let it take a long time because I'm like, okay, like these shoes, they're still functional, right? Like I can still wear them. The types of clothes that I want, like I'm not going to go out and get things that might work for a time, because right now clothes that are like transitional clothes before I get what I actually want, that kind of clothing doesn't feel good to me, right? I had a conversation with a few clients about this actually, and one of them was like reassessing her massage membership. One of them was reassessing like some home decor renovation projects that she was going to do, where she was like, actually, I can just like get this one thing and like that will feel good. One of them was reassessing her gym membership, right? Where she was like, I'm actually not using it as much as I used to, right? And now it's gone up in price. And so like I can actually do this and this is feeling more exciting to me. So put all of those things on the table, okay? And let yourself be honest with what still feels valuable and what still doesn't. Now, there's going to be some feelings about this, right? There might be like a grieving process and a mourning process of like, oh, I'm so sad that I don't like spending money on this anymore, right? Like it might feel sad that the cost of it is too much for the value you receive, but you still liked the value that you were receiving. It just doesn't fit in your ecosystem anymore. It just doesn't feel good anymore. And it's okay to be sad about that. And that doesn't mean you can like never buy the thing or you can never indulge in the thing. But when we're talking about getting conscious about your spending, the whole goal of this is so that you give yourself more wiggle room in your bank accounts, in your financial ecosystem. With regulating your nervous system during this time, there are a lot of things that are shocking us, that are panicking us, that are making us feel rage, that are making us feel sadness, that we're having to like process through and be hit with day after day after day. And so the thing I want to help eliminate for you is stress and panic and tightness in your bank accounts. So if we can give you more wiggle room with what you have to play with inside of your finances, the easier it's going to be to like have that not be a thing that spikes your fight or flight response, right? Let the other stuff that you can't control spike your fight or flight response. Let's give you more wiggle room in the current day-to-day situation of your bank accounts. Okay, so now I want to leave you with a few final things, a few things we haven't touched on yet that I want to say. I've said this before. Do not pull all of your money out of your investments and your retirement accounts. As of today, like the stock market had a big crash today, and I posted on my stories, I was like, we are not panicking. We are not pulling all of our money out. Don't go and look at your retirement accounts right now because it's going to freak you out. And your caveman brain might perk up and be like, pull it all out now. You're going to let it ride the waves, because if you're younger, you have time for it to recover. And if you're older, you've already reallocated your portfolio, that the stock market crashing isn't going to have as big of an effect on the money that's in your investment accounts, okay? So we don't need to stress and we don't need to worry. The stock market is going to do what the stock market is going to do. Stay aware of your money. This is not time to go into YOLO fuck it mode. It can feel like, because, you know, if it's feeling like the end times for you, if it's feeling like apocalyptic world, if it's feeling really like, well, fuck it, who knows how long we're going to survive this thing, and you go YOLO, and you like don't give a fuck about your future self, you don't care about saving, you don't care about investing, that's gonna bite you in the ass down the road. It really is. It is so important for you to stay conscious now, right? And again, this doesn't mean you have to be like white knuckling. This doesn't mean you have to try and save every single penny you can. That's not the vibe. But I want you to be in the energy of like, I get to take care of myself now and later. I am able to weather a storm while I am still carrying an umbrella. Like the analogy here is like when you're in YOLO fuck it mode, you're like, fuck it, it's a storm, so might as well walk to work naked because all my clothes are gonna get wet. No, you're going to put on a rain jacket. You're going to grab an umbrella, okay? We're not running naked to work because fuck it, the clothes are going to get wet. So staying aware is like seeing there's a storm outside and deciding to cover yourself in a rain jacket so that when you get to work, it might feel a little like groggy, right? You might not love that you have to like take your rain jacket off and you might be a little bit moist, but at least you're not showing up soaking wet, completely naked when you do get to the office. That's what's going to happen at the end of like, I do believe there's a light at the end of this tunnel, right? I don't think it's in 4 years. I think it's a little further out than that, right? But like, I believe that we will swing the other way, right? That's what I have to believe, right? To keep moving through this. At the end of that tunnel, I don't want you naked, dripping wet in an office. I want you in your like damp rain jacket, able to continue moving throughout your day, okay? This analogy got a little away from me, but that's what we want here. So we're not going YOLO fuck it. You're having your monthly money dates. Even if you are currently spending your savings, even if you're not able to invest or like pay off debt like you want to right now, I want you to look those numbers in the face every single month and stay conscious of your spending and see what's coming in and see how much you're spending from your savings. I want you to stay aware no matter what. Now, the last thing that I want to say and remind you of is there is no way to protect yourself from every single ounce of pain that you might feel from the coming things that are coming down the pipeline. What I mean by that is with a lot of this doomsday prepping, and this is like, you know, the preppers who have like the bunkers, right? And who are like fully spending so much time trying to prepare for worst case scenario, and that's taking up so much of their life. The goal of that for them is to try and avoid every ounce of pain of what could possibly come. But the thing is, if we enter an apocalypse, the apocalypse is the fact. You're not going to be able to leapfrog the apocalypse. Now, I am not saying that we are heading towards an apocalypse, but we are heading towards something that is very scary and very heavy. Okay? God, it's just like the weight of it when we think about it. What's coming for us? There is no amount of pulling cash out. There is no amount of like putting money in different kinds of banks. There's no amount of like toying around in a spreadsheet that is going to prevent you from having to feel and live through what we are about to live through. Now, there are things that are going to make it easier. There are things that are going to allow you to be a helper in these times, which is staying aware of your money, making sure you're not letting money go towards shit that doesn't feel good anymore. Okay? Or never felt good and you're finally letting it fall away. These things, these acts, doing the things that you can continue to do with your money that you have been doing with your money, making sure you're saving and getting 3 months ahead on bills, making sure you're continually investing even when there's a stock market crash, right? All of these things, continuing to have that good relationship with money, checking in on your mindset and your emotions so you don't crash out 3 months from now because you forgot to check in on your financial anxiety. All of these things are going to make it so that you not only can survive and be okay during this next season, but you are able to be a helper during this time. You are not one of the people who needs to be helped. If you are in a place of privilege and you have the facility to be able to save and be conscious about your spending to the point where you're able to get yourself into excess so that you can invest and save and provide and donate and, again, have extra money, it is your responsibility to do so. Financial wellness has never and will never just be about you, okay? If you are in a position where you are able to put yourself into a better financial position, do it. Now is the time, because your dollars, your surplus can be used elsewhere, right? Whether it's for future you or it's for other causes or people that might need you, or as we're continuing to like come more towards each other in community that you can support in that way. Like, that's what this is for. So I want you to let the fact that you won't be able to perfectly predict and prepare and plan your way out of pain be a relief to you of like, okay, I'm going to do the stuff that I know to do. I'm going to make the best decisions with what I know right now. There's no way any of us can predict what's coming down the line. Well, we can have general ideas, but we can't predict specifically, We can't predict the exact day, the exact time, the exact period of events. We can't. Let that be a relief that you get to just do what you know is good to do, get your money shit together, right? Be able to be a helper now. And then you're just going to process through your emotions and you're going to go out and fight and you're going to do, have your place in this in this season that we're all heading into together, right? I hope this was helpful. I am here for you. As always, we are staying financially calm and we are moving through this lifetime in the best way we know how. We are loving ourselves. We are loving each other. We are fighting for what we need to fight for. And we are processing our rage and our emotions and our grief. Okay? I will talk to you all next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.